Welcome back, everybody. Red Sports Radio. With me is James. As
So,
always, what's up, man? Got a lot going on today. So first, we're going to talk about kind of the rankings here in the AFC. Then we're going to talk about each of these matchups. So there's a lot going on. So in the AFC, top of the list right now, we got the Chiefs, Dolphins, Steelers. Rounding out some of the bottom half of who might be making the playoffs, as if it were ended today, we'd be looking at like the Jaguars, Colts, Ravens, and Bills. The rest of these teams are what we call like on the bubble with the Browns, Chargers, and Texans. Outside of that, it's kind of a big fight there. So our first matchup we have would be the Chiefs going up against the Broncos. Anything that you see there that you might be looking for? I know you got Mims. You were kind of excited him being a sleeper pick, and
I mean, they just aren't utilizing him. He's got the highest. He's like one of the highest yards per reception in the league. Extremely efficient, and Sean Payton is stuck on his preseason game plan. So, let them be them. Everybody's going to blame Russell Wilson, but if Sean Payton's not willing to pivot to the guy who's his obvious wide receiver one, is it all Russell Wilson's fault? So I think the Chiefs are going to go in there, going to destroy the Broncos. And that's going to be that. People live on and say, "Oh yeah, no, Sean Payton's a great coach." No, maybe it's the same thing we've seen with Belichick. Maybe Drew Brees was just a great quarterback. Maybe Tom Brady
he
was just
was.
a great quarterback, and they aren't really that great at coaches. I mean, we
Yeah.
can't really say. Look at Belichick now. I mean, was it Belichick or was it Brady? One guy went on and won a Super Bowl. Other guy got shut out.
Yeah, I think we all can say at this point now, after seeing how Mac and that's all been developing and that whole offense, that's definitely a whole Tom Brady. He made that team what it was. But again, looking at what it is now, was it Russell Wilson? He's not thriving right now, obviously. And that's kind of sad to see. We had a lot of expectations going into last season with them, got a lot of expectations this season for him. When is we going to see him take that step up? And to your point, that coaching staff needs to make that adjustment because Russell Wilson is so good with his feet. They need to allow him to be able to use that feet. And I think we're going to have that theme pop up in multiple different teams as we're
Yeah,
talking
and I
about
mean,
today.
it's the same thing. They're targeting Sutton. He's not catching balls. You're having, your top wide receivers only taking a third of the snaps. Where are we going with this? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously with Jerry Jeudy there, hard to say anybody's going to be a wide receiver one over Jeudy, but I mean, Mims has been more efficient. So keeping him on the bench and not utilizing him, like even in his snap counts decrease. Yeah, I have him on my fantasy, so I'm going to be a little bit biased about this. But even looking at it outside of that, I think he's averaging 27 yards per catch. I mean,
Yeah.
how does somebody who's averaging 27 yards per have a snap count that decreases week over week? I mean, that's just poor management.
Yeah. And I think the Chiefs are going to walk right all over them in this game. And
I mean, that thing is Taylor Swift going to be there? That's going to be the big story of the whole game. Again,
she wasn't there last week.
she wasn't. Week before that, they didn't leave together. Hey, hot pick: T Swift and Kelsey broke up. She's coming
Right
with a
before
new
the
act.
Super Bowl, right before they play the Eagles again.
Yeah.
So she'll be wearing her Eagles jersey for the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Our next matchup we have is going to be the Dolphins and Carolina. Dolphins, ranked second right now, going up against Carolina. What are we looking at in this matchup here? Obviously Devon Achane is now out for that team. Is that going to be too big of a difference, or is the Dolphins still going to just continue to plow through every team they play through?
I think the offense is going to plow through people. I mean, HN going out, potential. I mean, I don't even think it's a hot take at this point. If he hadn't gotten injured, potential rookie of the year caliber player. I mean,
I think he
obviously
still
that's a
can win
hit
it.
for the team, huh?
I think he still could win
I mean,
it.
still saying, oh, he's going to win, even going out injured, but it's a huge hit for the team. But that team, he was third string when they routed the Broncos.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no, I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm excited, to see, how this Dolphins team plays out, back some years ago before I was even, even thought to be a thought in anyone's head, Dolphins went around and they had an undefeated season one point in
Dan
time.
Marino, baby.
Yeah. So, Dolphins are back in season, it's Dolphin time. Excited to watch all their
Mice is
games.
back in
Obviously.
style. The Dolphins are back at it. Like, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm not looking too much there. Obviously, I like to see a higher production out of Thielen in Carolina. And I think a lot of that is, they're trying to find everybody else. And he's their most sure-handed receiver, and they need
And we
to
saw that
have
last
somebody.
week.
Go again?
And we saw that last week.
Yeah.
I think they finally realized and utilized him last week for the first time this season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's an extreme. Like, what are they thinking?
Yeah.
Again,
you
poor
go
management.
4 weeks not using them. That's what they did. Went 4 weeks without using him. Finally get his his touch last week, and hopefully we can start to see his utilization start to go up, because I think he's going to help keep that team afloat for the season. But at the end of the day, I'm praying that they keep losing for my Bears. I need that pick.
You're praying Carolina does?
Yeah, keep losing.
Okay.
That's my DJ Moore pick. That's that first round pick.
I mean, I think you'll still get a decent first round pick from them, but I do think the Broncos are going to take the cake on. I mean, Bears don't really need a quarterback. I think Bears have a quarterback. Bears need an offensive line.
Yeah, and I think it's been proven now the last couple of weeks, starting to see Justin Fields start to step out too over there, and we'll get into that one a little bit later. But again, I need the Carolina to lose. I need the Bears to lose. I need the first and second pick. That's what I'm looking for. And let's go out there and start to reconstruct our lines and start to reconstruct the defense and get things in order. Start to bring hype and get rid of Eberflus, because he's not doing anything good for this team.
No.
Nothing at all. Third ranked spot, we have the Steelers, and they got a bye this week. So moving on, then we got the Jaguars playing Indianapolis Colts. I've been watching a lot more Colts games. Yeah, big rivalry game. I've been watching a lot more of the Colts games this year, just because it's one of two channels I get to actually watch. They're going to be on based off of where I'm located. So, but again, the Colts have been looking pretty exciting on the field, and I'm enjoying watching Pittman go at it and other receivers.
Richardson's looking like he may be. I don't think it's any surprise. Richardson's looking like he may be the pick of the class. He is fifth-year senior at Tennessee. Probably would have won the Heisman had he not. I think he tore his ACL midway through the season. Had a season-ending injury after going out and just picking defenses apart for Tennessee. I don't think anybody that watched college football is surprised by the fact that he's doing as well as what he is.
Yeah, I definitely would have seen this coming for him. My biggest thing is he going to turn into the next Andrew Luck, for this organization?
If they can't protect him, yes, he will.
Yeah, and
they've always been in that same boat. You got to pay the supporting cast too. And if you're not willing to, Peyton Manning was an outlier that was going to go out there and get beat up.
Yeah, there's very few quarterbacks in history that are willing to take a beating and just keep on ticking. And Peyton was one of them for that organization. But obviously Richardson, he's not going to take that beating. And look, he's running as often as, people like Lamar and Justin Fields. So he needs to be well protected when he is going to stay in the pocket, because he is going to go out there and take a hit when he's off on that run.
Yep.
So, again, the Jaguars looking nice as ever as well for that matchup. Trevor Lawrence, all of a sudden, he's starting to step up and find players like his Calvin Ridley. He's starting to find, so I'm excited, to see how that matchup rolls out. But I think Indianapolis will probably end up with this victory.
I think that one's a toss-up.
I think it's less of a toss-up.
We'll have to agree to disagree. I think that one's a toss-up.
So moving on, our next matchup is Baltimore and Tennessee. So our 6 and 12 seeds here in the AFC. If Lamar can actually have receivers that are willing to catch the ball, they might, start winning more games.
Yeah, I mean, that's been their issue all year. We've seen the efficiency pick up for the Tennessee running game, as the year's gone on. This is another one. This is a coin flip game to me.
I 100% agree, and I think it's a lot to. I think if the Baltimore Ravens actually can start catching passes, I think that we're going to start to see the Baltimore Ravens start winning more games than what they are. And I think if they start here, this might be more in favor for Baltimore. But again, that run game for Tennessee is really starting to pick up. Derrick Henry is starting to get back in his prime self looking in form. And he's out there, busting tackles and breaking open some big plays.
That he is. He is exciting to watch.
Yeah, it's impressive. So who you taking on this game? If you're going to take somebody.
Man, I like to throw it to the old school football. I'm going to give it to the Titans this weekend.
Take it to the Titans?
Yeah.
All right, next up we got the Bills and the New York Giants. I think the Bills have this in the bag. I don't think there's too much here to talk about. I'm not too big on the Giants this year. I know, with everything that's going on in their organization. I think the Bills
should win it. I mean, Josh Allen may be the streakiest quarterback alive, but, they should win it. And if they don't, we just got to chalk it up to it being the Bills.
Yeah. And if I'm betting, I'm putting everything on the Bills, and all the numbers there, I'm putting everything on the Bills. And that's just how that's going to be. Looking at it again, I think another big matchup I kind of really wanted to talk about, kind of excited, was between the Browns and Niners. Here, if the Browns come up with a win, they're now looking back into a top 7 spot here. Obviously, the Niners are mad scary right now. Everybody's clicking on all cylinders. I know we talked about the Dolphins looking just electric, but there's something special about how the Niners are playing right now.
I mean, we got Brock Big Dick Purdy out here, freaking check down king, going at it hard. If Deshaun can come out there and put a good game together with the Browns defense, there's not a scarier defense, I think, in the league than the Browns. Just with their front pass rush, the guys they have up there are pretty freaking insane. Judging by their history, and let's be honest, Christian McCaffrey's history, this could very well be the game that he goes out for the rest of the season yet again. Pretty typical as to what we see from him. He's a little bit of a glass jaw.
Yeah.
Which, I think that's what it's going to ride on. But I think the Browns could definitely take down the 49ers. And, I don't want to see it happen. I never want to see anybody get injured. But it would kind of, for me, it would be more so like a, haha, I told you so. Like, McCaffrey doesn't stay healthy for a season.
He doesn't. But I think the 49ers have really started to put a game plan together and devise, different things around him to help him stay more healthy. I think we saw that a lot more last year with him. So I'm not seeing it happen this year. Obviously I can't predict the future, and neither can anyone else, but I think the Niners is the right organization for him to play, to stay as healthy as he can be. And so if he's healthy through this whole game, which I assume to be the case, I think the Niners can walk away with it. I like the Niners secondary. I like their front 7, as well as every piece on offense between Brandon Ayuk and Kittle and McCaffrey, and the list goes on.
They have a ridiculous. Really all they needed was a quarterback, and who would have ever guessed that it would have been Mr. Irrelevant,
the last pick of last year's draft, or 2 years ago, I guess.
2 years ago.
How you're looking at it.
And at this point, we just have to. We have to all admit it. His name is Big Dick Purdy.
Brock Big Dick Purdy. and he shows it, man. He goes out there and he's slinging that thing.
Oh, he is playing out of his mind. Out of his mind.
Ridiculous, how he's able to go out there and put it together. There's not many late round quarterbacks that just, impress us off the charts. And the last one I could think of off the top of my head would be a Tom Brady. And now we got, Brock Purdy. Is he going to be
I'm actually interested. The one stat that I have never looked up that I'd be interested to know, if Brock Purdy is to go and win the Super Bowl, when was the last time that somebody with a salary less than his won the Super Bowl? Because I think he's only making, I don't even know if he's making a couple $1 million a year.
Yeah, he's still on that rookie contract, so.
He's on that Mr. Irrelevant rookie It's probably been a very long time since that low of a paid quarterback, if he wins the Super Bowl, since that low paid of a quarterback has maybe even made the playoffs. I mean,
yeah,
he's not making much he's making a lot of money. In comparison to professional NFL quarterbacks, he's not making much money.
Yeah, in comparison to his peers.
No, not at all.
Right. So I'm, Brock Purdy all day long. Brock Big Dick Purdy, as we call him.
BD.
So moving on, our next matchup is the most questionable franchise. Dallas is playing the Chargers. And
I mean, is it questionable outside of we saw the defense get tore up. The defense got tore up. There's not another way to say it. And, I mean, is it questionable? I'm fairly certain I've been saying this for 2 years now. Hey, Dak Prescott is not that guy. Does anybody believe me yet? Will somebody please believe? Hey, he's not that freaking guy.
He's not him. Yeah, and
got the whole impasta.
Yeah, you've been saying it for far too long that he's not him. I think I started to believe it more so this year than last year. I thought last year I was like, he just let him cook, let him cook. And the only thing he's cooking is burnt brownies.
He has overcooked at this point. He's not getting any better.
Yeah, no, he's so far overcooked. It's ridiculous. And we're still holding out faith for what? Someone who's starting to hit a little bit older in age and hasn't proven anything. It's time to move on, and Justin Herbert's going to go out there and show him how to play at the quarterback position yet again. So,
yeah, I mean, I do think the defense comes back with a vengeance. I do think that they'll play well. It's not just going to be a gunslinging match, but I don't think we see much. I think we've seen the best of Dak Prescott that we're ever going to see. And this proves, Jerry Jones, your time's past, brother. You can't put a team together to save your freaking life.
No. And it's time to move on, not only from Dak, but as you said, the whole front office. And just start to do a restructure. The Bears are doing it. It hurts, from a fan base standpoint. But at some point, you need to rebuild the team to actually be a team.
Don't freaking cry to me about rebuilding a team. We've been rebuilding the Lions since I was 2 freaking years old.
But look what we got now. Look what we got now in Detroit.
Yeah. I think
too early for you to say anything?
The pyramids were actually built quicker than the Lions football franchise. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but hey, they got a team and they're cooking, and it's fun to watch. Our next matchup, Texans Saints, nothing too exciting there. I think the Saints take that one away. Next one after that, Jets and Philadelphia. I think last year I would have said that this would have been the matchup of a lifetime, between all the new defensive studs that the Jets had picked up last year, between, the whole offense that we got in Philadelphia. I thought that would have been a great matchup. The Jets aren't as surprising this year.
Same old Jets.
They're just not, keeping it together as much as I expected them and had hopes for them keeping it together. I do think this is going to be a good game. I do see that Philadelphia is going to take it away, in the second half and blow it out of proportion.
I don't see him blowing it out of proportion. They're going to win the Eagles' way by like a touchdown or 3 points.
I think it's multi-score win.
All right, we'll see.
I'm calling a multi-score. You know what I said? A multi-score win.
And next
up
week,
would be
when it's not, Tyler's going to eat the hottest chip in the world on air.
If it's not we'll do it at the end of next podcast. Then I'm not gonna do it at the beginning and just be downing my face in milk. We'll have to end it as soon as I consume it. But you know what?
You're gonna just wear that shirt so that we can see your skin color. Turn the same color as your shirt as you eat that thing.
Same shirt next week?
Yep, we're all with it.
Right on. So my question is, if it is a double score lead victory, you eating a hot chip?
I'm gonna have to eat the hot chip.
Hot chip bet. All right. So the next game on the list then is the Raiders Patriots.
I mean, I think the Raiders are in a rebuild, but I do think, I think they walk away with this one. I mean, Patriots are
more meth than the Raiders without Davante Adams.
Davante Adams is going to play. He came back to healthy today.
Oh, he came back to healthy. Okay, I did not receive that notification today.
Well, he's on my team. I pay very close attention to that.
So there we go. Raiders going to take that one away quite nice and easily. So moving on, we got the NFC. Take a quick look here at some of these standings. I kept in some of the matchups here, James, for us, so that way we can know what teams we've talked about already. So let me go ahead and somehow figure out how I'm going to do this. That's why we got to be prepared. Here we are. Let's take a look at this real quick. We have sitting in first place, we got the 49ers. Second place, we got the Eagles, Lions, Bucks, Seahawks, Falcons, Cowboys. That's what our playoffs would look like if it ended today. And the biggest surprise to me is the Falcons, if I'm being honest.
I mean, Bijan's a great player. It still absolutely shocks me that Kyle Pitts' career is going to waste there. I think he has the receiving ability of Kelsey, probably more athletic ability than Kelsey. And we just don't see him get utilized. And it's pretty shocking. Bijan, obviously a great running back, generational running back coming out of Texas. The fact his receiving game as well as his running game, he's elusive. He's a lot of fun to watch. I think they have the weapons to put it together. They're still just the Falcons though. Like, how do you get excited about that?
Right. And it's so annoying for me. Like, I think the Saints should be in that spot. Again, two South teams here, NFC South teams, and with Chris Olave and the way that organization is. But at the end of the day, to your point, it's really just Bijan Robinson just running people into submission. And that's the only reason that they're at where they're at. And he's not really doing too much of running people into submission. They got a couple losses right now on their record, but we'll get into their game here in a little bit. But our first matchup we have is between the Lions and Buccaneers here. So let's go ahead and put that one up for everybody. Lions and Buccaneers.
I'll see you there.
Yeah. And that's a crazy game. Obviously my hometown being out in Tampa, obviously, not there anymore, but I'm rooting on Mike Evans, that whole squad, rooting on that team.
I will be there in my Detroit jersey. I live in Tampa now, so I will be there in my Detroit jersey cheering for my Lions, baby.
You do that, and please bring home another victory because I want to see the Lions finally win the division. I think that would be just the greatest thing alive.
I mean, the Lions, if you combine the wins from every other team in the division, you realize that it's the same number of wins as the Lions have right now, right?
Yeah, I think I think it's accurate.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to like speak before my turn, but I think the Lions just don't have to kill themselves, which that's been our issue in the past. We lose the close games. So, they need to buckle down. I think Dan Campbell is the man for that organization. He's got that rough, grit, nasty attitude. And I think they come down to Tampa and they take away the win.
Yeah. He's definitely got that blue collar attitude that Detroit needs. And I think that Dan Campbell is truly what that organization truly,
Yeah, and if it's not, he's just gonna bite your kneecaps.
Yeah, and he's rough around every edge, and quite frankly, being in the Motor City, that's what you need to be, is a little rough around the edges. And so watching him go out there and just put together some of the craziest plays. What was it, like a double end around, flea flicker pass to Hawkinson or whatever for a touchdown?
Yes. Yep. You just shake your head. And I mean, you look at it. Let's go back to this. When the Saints, when Sean Payton was coming up with all these crazy plays, who was on his coaching staff running an offense?
Was it Dan? It was Dan.
Where are those crazy plays that Sean Payton had in New Orleans? We're seeing the Lions run them.
Yep.
So, I mean, Dan Campbell, very rough around the edges.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a diamond in the rough, we found a jagged pebble, maybe even like an Indian arrowhead that's about 500 years old, all right? But he's the perfect thing. He's that Motor City madman.
Yeah, and that's absolutely what Detroit's been looking for this whole time, and finally they have it. And I'm glad to see that they're sitting at 4-1, and the next closest thing to them is what, 2-2?
Yep.
With the Packers.
Yep.
So
yep, exactly. So, and they exposed the Packers, so we can just move on.
Yeah. So our next game is between the Seahawks and the ever so terrible right now Cincinnati Bengals.
I mean, I think we saw last week, we saw Burrow actually able to throw the ball. He's not babying one of his legs anymore. If you watch the game, he looked like you could still tell he was babying it a little bit, but it wasn't like there were throws that he got off that would have been a sack in weeks past. He was able to get the ball out in time, not babying that leg, not having to really change his throwing positions. So I do think that we're going to start seeing a comeback. But bottom line is they've been playing with an unhealthy quarterback. Yeah, they've been terrible, but they've been playing with an injured quarterback who probably should have sat out for 2 weeks. Didn't. So they've dealt with awfulness because of it.
So now they're sitting at the bottom of the conference because of it. And
they have an uphill battle, but I think they're the team that can climb it.
There's a lot of climbing there. There's some easy teams to pass up, but there's going to be some tougher teams to get into that top 7, by the end of the season, especially now that we're going into week 6 right now.
Yeah.
And I think the Seahawks are probably a team that can not cruise past them, but end up with another victory over the Bengals yet again.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that. We talk about the run game. Pete Carroll's always loved it. We got K9 coming out of the backfield. Didn't know if it was going to switch back and forth. I think he solidified his spot as that RB1.
Yeah.
And I mean, Geno Smith, Geno Smith isn't great. He's not great, but where I would put him in like that same category as Dak, except for the difference between him and Dak is Geno Smith is really good at. Geno Smith has a coach that knows his limitation, so he limits the ability for him to make mistakes.
Is he younger than Dak too? I'm pretty sure. So he's got more time to.
No, I think he's older than Dak because if you remember, there was like I think 7 or 8 years in between him starting an NFL football game.
Okay. So
I want to say he's older than Dak, but he had a long break in between, and Pete Carroll's really in that. Pete Carroll's a great coach, There's no denying it. He was a great coach at USC. He's been great for the Seahawks, but he's really, really good at knowing his players' strengths and weaknesses and limiting their ability to make their mistakes and limiting their weaknesses and playing into their strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could not have said that any better myself. And so moving on to our next game would be Atlanta and Washington.
This could be. I think this is going to be a good game.
Yeah. Terry McLaurin, he's going kind of crazy right now. Obviously, I think we kind of talked about this one already. With Bijan doing what Bijan's doing. So I'm excited to kind of see how this one unfolds.
I mean, more teams need to watch that Detroit tape when he was held under 100 yards and no touchdowns. I think he averaged like 3 yards a carry against Detroit.
Yeah. And so that's kind of crazy. So that kind of concludes our top 7 there in the NFC. So looking over into kind of the bubble teams, so to speak, we got the Saints. I kind of talked about them playing Texans. Packers are on a bye. Our next one would probably be then the Rams and the Cardinals. Anything there that really jumps off the page at you? Nothing here either. And then the last game I think we need to talk about is going to be Chicago, Minnesota. 2 1-4 teams. I think that the Vikings are very underrated as a 1-4 team. But now they got, Justin Jefferson. God, almost butchered his name. He's now out, very well injured. Bears might even be able to come up with a win against a team that they should be losing against.
Yeah, I think so. The way that Justin Fields is kind of put together and played over the last, the last couple contests we've seen him in. Justin Jefferson being out, obviously the number 1 pick. They don't have Adam Thielen anymore to fall back on when Jefferson goes down. And I do. I think we were talking about it at the beginning of the year, like, hey, it's kind of a toss-up between Detroit and Minnesota, and Minnesota comes out to a 1-4 start. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see, but I would pick the Bears in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Bears and maybe a stink fest of a game. They got that KJ Osborne going out there, Madison and Addison, both out there. They're going to make some stellar plays, I think, against a very weak Bears defense. But I think that, Fields is able to go out there and able to, make some plays happen of his own and kind of keep that offense alive in that game.
I mean, if this would have the same response as the Washington game to me if I wasn't a North fan. I'm a Detroit fan. I'm a North fan. It's a divisional game, so it matters. But other than that, it's just kind of like, who freaking cares?
Yeah.
Like 2 terrible teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I hold on as a Bears fan, to this game a little bit more so than maybe the next person. But again, kind of a stink fest there. At the end of the day, both teams 1-4. Someone's gonna walk away 1-5. What a start to a season for whoever that may be. So moving on, got some notable injuries. Kind of want to talk about. As you noted, some of these players have now been lifted off of this list, such as Devontae Adams, who's there listed in the wide receiver ranks. I know Travis Kelce's now been listed out of there. We've talked about Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis and his injury. We didn't really talk about Daniel Jones too much. But again, we're not too excited about that game in between that contest. I think his absence is going to be probably the biggest difference in the reason that team loses this week. We got James Conner out in Arizona. Again, another team that kind of stinks us up. So a lot of injuries for teams that just aren't super exciting. Devon Achane's probably the most. Devon Achane, Anthony Richardson are probably our 2 exciting
Those are 2
players.
of the biggest ones.
2 of the biggest ones, really. Justin Jefferson, obviously, as well, but his team's 1-4.
I think it's a big one with Achane too. He actually got moved to IR, so he's going to be out at least 4 games. So if you were one of the people like myself, picked him up on the waiver wire, hopefully you have somebody else that can fill that RB1, RB2 flex spot where you wanted to put him, because he's going to be out for at least 4 games now.
Yeah. And I think so. 4 games puts us at week 9 for him. With that being the case, week 10 is their bye. So you're going to be missing them for not even 4, but 5 weeks at a minimum, which conveniently placed on IR. So now he gets an extra week if they wanted to bring him back to get healthy. So convenient for the team, not convenient for fantasy owners.
Like myself.
Myself as well. I had him in the RB11 slot. Like, he was my number 1 RB when I picked him up. Because I have Jonathan Taylor, who was supposed to be my RB1, my top RB1. And he's not there anymore. And I had, Miles Sanders. I was expecting a RB2 out of Miles Sanders this year. He's not there. I had a couple others, and it's like nobody's really performing to the level in which we need them to perform in. And now Jonathan Taylor finally signed his contract. He's back in playing football, and he's, supposed to be, their RB1, and no, it's Zach Moss.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're trying to teach him a lesson, but that's a stupid lesson to teach, Jim Irsay. Stop being freaking. I mean, Jim Irsay, having lived in near Indianapolis and going to the games, he is an extraordinarily frustrating owner because he thinks he knows everything, and I think he falls in that same category. He ruined Andrew Luck's career. Good chance he's going to ruin Richardson's career. Peyton Manning put him on his shoulders, and then Peyton Manning slapped him in the face when he said, "Oh, I'm going to move on from you," and went out to Denver and won another Super Bowl.
Yeah. So it's terrible to say, man, because I had Devon Achane, I had Miles Sanders, I had all my running backs in line, and all my ducks were in a row. So as a fantasy owner, I'm super frustrated. I can't find not one win at the running back slot.
I have Aaron Jones, who just seems to not be healthy and then go to a bye week and not be, who knows. I mean, my receivers, everything else is kind of picking up. I did have Burrow and Chase, this was my first week of having them actually decide to play a football game and put up over 100 points between the two of them. And man, my week this week, I scored 205 points, highest in the league. Second highest in the league was the guy that I played who scored 201.
Okay.
Feel bad for the guy. Everybody else was like in the mid 150s. So it'll be nice if they can actually put it together. Obviously, I lost A-Chain, who I think put up 27 points in my league. Obviously, losing him is going to hurt. I am able to put him on my bench. Got Aaron. Well, I don't have Jones slotted. Who did I put in? Like, I did some weird things and picked people up. So I've got, Foreman from Chicago, who I don't think is going to do much. And then I picked up McKinnon from Kansas City. So We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. I'm not.
So let me talk a little fantasy with you real quick. So last week I had 173 fantasy points, second in the league. With that being the case, my lineup last week looked like I had, if I pull this up, I had Jalen Hurts, who dropped me 29.3 fantasy points, Alvin Kamara. I had Devon Achane with 26 points, Stephon Diggs with 25, DeAndre Hopkins finally came out of his own with 25 points. Travis Kelce dropped me a clean 22. Started Jonathan Taylor in the flex, only 4 fantasy points. I got Alexander Madison with a clean 12 points in my second flex. I got McPherson out of Cincinnati for my kicker, and then the Commanders defense with less than a point.
Yeah, it's rough. That's a rough one. How'd you do? So did you win your game at least?
I won it 173 to 127.
Very nice. Very nice.
Clean win there. With that being said, though, I'm going into this week now, and I have now Devon Achane on the bench. I'm putting Jonathan Taylor on the bench because he only dropped me 4 fantasy points last week, and I don't see his role increasing too much. So now I had to bring in Elijah Moore to kind of fill that spot there. Miles Sanders now gets put from flex 2 all the way up to running back 2 on my roster. I ended up picking up, well, I guess I picked up Elijah Moore off of the waiver wire. And I had a couple guys that I was looking at this week, and I was, just wanting to keep an eye out on. I didn't want to pick them up right away. And then, of course, they all got picked up. Josh Reynolds being one. I had, who else was it on my watch list that I really was looking for? Drake London was another guy that I was really looking for this week. All got picked up, and it was like, goodness gracious. Antonio Gibson was picked up in my league. I don't think he's looking too crazy, only projected at 8 fantasy points. But I had a couple guys on the watch list, and they just got swallowed up on waiver wires like right away. And it was like, I just wanted to keep an eye on them. I didn't want to pick them up right away.
Well, I'm glad I just looked, because it turns out, what just happened? Where are we? Why is that chain back? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong week. Because Ahmed, the running back, so I just dropped the Bears running back. Going to go ahead and put Ahmed in, because I think he will be the right guy for that job. Because he's coming back, it looks like, for the Dolphins.
Okay. So yeah, no, I was really frustrated with kind of how last week, pulled out for me, at least with, that running back slot with, damn Jonathan Taylor. So he's projected again at 10 points. Do I put him in this week? Like, do you see an increased role for Jonathan Taylor? Do you think that they were trying to give him a 1 week lesson, or is it a multiple week lesson, you think?
I think they're giving him a 1 week lesson. I don't foresee this being a multiple week drawn out thing. That'd be stupid on their part. But, it could be. They could just decide, hey, let's be dumb.
Yeah, and they already know he doesn't really want to be there. I know he went out in his press conference like, "Oh yeah, this is my team, and I'm here to put the team on my back and really help them out in the best way I can." And he said all the nice, promising things. I don't think anything's really changed though for him. Like, I know he went out there and said what he said. I don't think anything's really changed. And correct me if I'm wrong, he probably still wants out.
I mean, he's not a stupid guy. He's not that he won't be the guy there. Not in the same way that he won't be the guy. So I think for his own good, he has to get out.
And so with that being the case, because that's, part of his mindset, whether he went out there and said it or not, is that why they're keeping Moss out there? Is it less of a lesson and more of like a, hey, you don't want to be here, so why are we going to invest our time and our resources into you when Zach Moss wants to be here? Is that maybe what's going on?
This is the NFL. It's not. They're not investing time or resources anymore. He invests his own time. He invests his own resources. He's the best running back they have. They should put him on the field for the fans' sake, for gambling's sake, for everybody's sake.
Yeah.
They aren't going to, because, Jim Irsay hasn't worked for a thing in his entire life and has been handed everything by daddy. So he's going to pout. He's going to kick and scream like a spoiled little child and not realize there's a job to get done here.
And the job is to win week in and week out. And I know Zach Moss is putting up numbers, but Jonathan Taylor, I see putting up more numbers than him.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor would put up more numbers than him. No questions asked.
So I'm frustrated as a fantasy owner. So I'll leave it up to the fans in the comment section if we, what I should do with him. So I'll tell you kind of what my running back room looks like right now with Alvin Kamara and Miles Sanders. And then at my flex spots, I got Alexander Mattison and Elijah Moore. So where does Jonathan Taylor fit in there? Between those 4 names, and if I have to move them up, who gets sent back? And Elijah Moore, right now going up against, San Francisco, giving up some decent points to wide receivers, especially, wide receiver 2 being Elijah Moore, projected right now at just about 11 points. So flex 2, Elijah Moore, and then I got Jonathan Taylor, barely over 10 points right now.
This could be a rough week for me.
Okay, what are we looking at?
This could be a rough week for me, guys. So, hold on. Let me cancel out of that. No, I don't know. Do I want to pick up Gibson instead of Ahmed, or do I stick with Ahmed coming in? Or it's a tough call. Tough call. I mean, he played Chicago last week, put up 12.4 points. But here's what my lineup looks like currently. We got Joe Burrow at QB. We got Jamar Chase playing wide receiver 1, Devontae Adams wide receiver 2, Olave wide receiver 3, McKinnon RB1. Obviously, I had a Chain and Jones. Both of them aren't going to be playing here this week. So McKinnon RB1, Ahmed RB2, tight end George Kittle. Then in my flex spot, I'm running Pittman. I'm not listening to you guys anymore. I'm going to play Pittman. And then I'm playing with the Raiders defense this week. I think they're going to go out, and I don't think New England stands much of a chance.
Yeah. And
Tucker's my kicker.
Okay. I like it there. So covered what I'm looking at. I'm going to leave it up to the comment section as to what I do with Taylor. I'm not impressed with last week. I'm not convinced this week, but maybe someone can convince me for this week. At the end of the day, I like my lineup where it's at. If it doesn't change, it doesn't change. If it changes, I hope you're right.
Oh, I didn't realize this. Deshaun is expected to sit out Sunday's game against the 49ers. So they don't stand. Yeah, that's not going to be a close game. Watson would have to be in for that to be a game.
Yeah, so I didn't even have him in my notable injuries even for that game.
Yeah, bruised right shoulder. So, yeah. So that game is no longer – that game is going to be one-sided.
One-sided all the way through. And I think it was the Eagles game. If depending on what the score is, someone's going to be eating a hot chip on camera.
Not a hot chip. The hot chip.
The hot chip. The Pocky one, right?
Yep, the Pocky burn your butthole.
Pocky burn your butthole. And we do it on a Wednesday, Thursday. I got work the next day. I'm going to be sitting in there,
I am too. I'm going to have to bring my tire to sit on. Like a pregnant woman has to use after giving birth to a baby, all right? So one of us is going to be in pain.
Someone's going to be in pain, and I pray it's you. I pray it's a double-digit, victory.
3 points, baby.
It's got to be more than 8. It's got to be more than 8 for me to win, so that's going to be the spread between you and I is 8 points.
All right, we got it.
So, all right. Good talking to you, James. I'll be back next week. Hopefully we're back on Wednesdays. God, I'm stuttering.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for that. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Go, baby.
Talk to you later, man.
Later.